In this video, I'll be making this from these. I think that hot sauce is the perfect condiment for elevating those outdoor adventure meals, and it's something that I've been making myself for several years now. Granted, it's a luxury item to take with you, particularly on backpacking trips since it's not dehydrated, but a little goes a long way and I think that it's worth it. We tend to make our own dehydrated meals for backpacking, things such as couscous and vegetables, or oat and bean burgers, and it goes great with those, and also with non-dehydrated meals such as black bean wraps, for example. I could also see it really perking up those commercially available dehydrated food packs. Of course, the sauces that I'll make in this video are suitable not only for outdoors cuisine, but for any situation where you would want hot sauce. Before we get into the process, a couple of quick questions. Do you make your own meals for outdoor adventures, or do you buy ready-made versions? What are your favourites? And would you be interested in recipe videos of my favourites? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, let's get started. The process begins in early spring with sowing the seeds in seeding soil and beginning the growing process indoors. I like to use paper cups as seeding pots since they're cheap, sustainable and easy to label. Once the seedlings start to grow, some feed will be added to the water that they are given. As the weather gets warmer and the plants get bigger, they gradually get moved outdoors, still returning indoors for the colder nights. After the cold nights have passed, the chilli plants can be replanted in beds in larger pots, filled with good nutrient-rich soil. The soil is regularly covered with a thin mulch layer of grass clippings. This helps retain moisture in the soil, adds extra nutrients and suppresses weed growth. The following few months are the exciting time, where you can observe the appearance of chilli flowers followed by the fruit and watch them grow and ripen. Well, here in front of me I have this year's entire chilli harvest. It's been a pretty good harvest. We've especially got a whole load of these fantasies. I've now come up with some new recipes for hot sauce for this year, as well as some old favourites, and today I'm going to prepare all the chilies for fermenting. So let's get into it. I start off with making the brine. For this, I mix 3 tablespoons of salt for every litre of water in a pan. You can estimate how much you'll need and err on the side of caution, as it's better to have some left over than run out. The brine is brought to the boil and left to simmer for about 10 minutes. This will then be left to cool while the other prep work is done. All fermenting containers need to be sterile before filling. This can be done by heating the clean jars in the oven. I prefer to run them through the dishwasher just before use. The chilies are then chopped and all stalks discarded. I mark my containers according to the recipe and start filling each variety to the marker. The full recipe for each sauce can be found in the video description. When the jars are full, the brine is poured in to just below the top. The jars are sealed straight away and the fermentation process can begin. This takes about 2 to 3 weeks, in which time the brine will turn cloudy and acidic. Don't forget to regularly burp the jars during the fermentation process. This means briefly opening the lid to let out pressurized gas. Well, the chilies have now been fermenting in the brine for a couple of weeks and they're ready for the next stage. So today is finally the day I get to start making the various hot sauces.
To start off, separate the chilies from the brine. Do not discard the brine, we'll be needing it. Weigh the drained chilies in order to calculate the quantities of vinegar and brine needed. Pour the chilies into a pan and add 235 millilitres of vinegar for every 500 grams of chilies. I like to use white wine vinegar, and this one in particular. Then add 250 millilitres of brine for every 500 grams of chilies. If there's any left over, this can be put in a separate pan, boiled, and saved for later to thin the sauce if necessary. The mixture is brought to the boil and left to simmer for 15 minutes. After cooling, the chilies are once again separated from the liquid. Put some chilies in a food processor and start blending, gradually adding liquid. The mixture is strained through a sieve into a clean pan. I use a wooden spoon to help push the sauce through the sieve. Repeat the process until all of the chilies are used and there is some liquid left over. At this point, test the viscosity of the sauce. In this instance, it's too thick. Return the contents of the sieve to the food processor along with the rest, or required amount, of liquid. Blend again and sieve into the pan. Please do leave a like if you're enjoying the video and consider subscribing, it really helps out. That's better. Now for bottling up. Some small plastic containers are filled for outdoors adventures. These are really practical and lightweight. I also use them for oil and salt when heading off on adventures. The rest is poured into glass bottles for home use and gifts. The sauce will easily keep for a year in cool, dark conditions, until next year's batch is ready.
Well, that's a really nice selection of sauces with diverse flavours and heat levels. What do you think? Will you give this a go? These are going straight into my backpack ready for the next adventure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.